That movie's effing crazy, Joel.
Oh, well, okay, that's why I hadn't watched it, Ashley. You know, I'm sort of a pansy, so it's like I don't. How scary is it? It feels like it's pretty scary.
It's more creepy and like unsettling.
Okay, I can handle a little unsettling, honestly.
I think I would
a little
say.
Existential horror is a good thing, I feel like.
The Articulate Coven is the original, unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, The Vampire Chronicles, The Lives of the Mayfair Witches, and The Immortal Universe from AMC and AMC+.
Welcome to The Articulate Coven. We are your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are The Articulate Coven. Huzzah! It is a movie night, Ashley.
It is a movie night and a scary movie night.
Okay, so this... I started to say somewhere in my notes on this movie, by the way, we are the unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Immortal Universe. We talk about Interview with the Vampire, the TV series from AMC, as well as its sister series, Mayfair Witches, and eventually the Talamasca series that's coming in 2025. But we've already been we've talked for years about the books and the movies that have made out of these series and everything else. And we also cover some adjacent cool spookiness like tonight's topic, Last Voyage of the Demeter from 2023. This is a really good movie, Ashley.
It's so good. I had so much fun watching it again. I loved it on the first watch. I watched it during spooky season, it was around Halloween. And also I love this story. This was something so this is based on a chapter of Dracula that's like captain's logs of this ship. And it is so... it just always was really interesting to me, and it was like a really cool part of the book. And so when they started talking about this movie coming out, I was like, hell yes. And it did not disappoint me at all.
So I'm a big Letterboxd fan. I don't know that I've talked about this on the show before, but if you're a listener to the show and you are a Letterboxd user, please find me. I'm at The Rogue's Life, and I don't have enough followers or friends on there. Letterboxd is a service, a social media service where you rate movies. You can review and keep a diary of the movies that you watch, basically. And I don't even know if this is available to like free users or if it's only if you. I'm a premium subscriber. I do it's like $20 a year, I think. But the reason that I do that is because they have these like incredibly detailed statistics that you can see on like what movies have you watched the most and how many times have you watched those movies, right? So I've got it'll give me like a little listing of like the top 15 films that I've watched the most times, and like Mad Max Fury Road I know is up there. First of all of my Letterboxd stats are skewed because I only started tracking this in like 2018 or 2017 or something like that. So, but it's like the last 5 or 6 years now I've got great statistics on, and I love it. Anyway, I say all of that to say this. When I went to log Last Voyage of the Demeter and the next movie actually that we're going to be talking about, which next episode you can hear us discuss, From Dusk Till Dawn. So if Dracula on a boat ain't your thing, titties in a vampire bar might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's coming up next week. But when I went to log both of these movies, the reviews are not great for this film in Letterboxd. The Letterboxd community, which I will admit, tends towards film snobs, right? Because who logs all of their movie watching? Exactly. It's film snobs.
Does it link to like your streaming services so that it like...
So it doesn't track anything automatically.
That would be really badass, and my lazy ass would love that.
Okay, so there is a service called Tracked, which is like TRAKT, I think. And they've got a new thing which apparently will do just that. You can tie it into all your streaming services and it will like scrabble what you're watching automatically. And that's Tracked's big deal is that it helps you see, okay, what do I even have to watch right now? What shows are we watching that are now back on and everything? Our listeners and our Facebook group especially complains on a regular basis about the new cycle of TV where we got season 1 of Interview with the Vampire and then it was like 2 years and we finally got season 2.
It's so bad. And every show's doing it now. It's like it takes 2 years to get a Bridgerton season out. It's
or
bananas.
5 or Stranger Things went like 4 or 5 years, I think, in between seasons.
Right.
Those kids
not all that is fucking pandemic related. It's like
Right.
they're planning it that way, and I hate it.
But I do think part of it is the sheer amount of content, particularly TV content, used to be incredibly seasonal. So if you signed up to do a show for the 2024 year, you couldn't do 5 other shows, right? But now you sign up for all these things, and then depending upon how big a star you are, they may or may not hold up production just for you. So anyway, I think that adds into it. But
yeah,
that's
what
lot. Tracked does that if you're into that. So I would I'll link both these things in the show notes now that I've mentioned them, and it's like a whole segment we're doing here, Ashley. But
little sidebar.
Me personally, I like to know, like, because I watched so many movies. I think I watched like 150 some odd last year. I'm over 100 already this year. I think I'm like 120. I won't make it to 150, but I'll be like 125 or something by the end of the year. It's hard for me to remember always whether I watched something or not, right?
Yeah.
So if you mention a movie, I'll go look at I'll search it on my diary. Oh yeah, I've reviewed it twice actually. Yeah, it was good, Ashley, you're right. Or you say something and I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that before, and I go look it up. I can add it to my watch list. So then if I'm ever literally sitting around, I'll go scroll through Letterboxd and be like, what do I need to check off for a while?
That's awesome.
I've done it with all of the great film lists too. I'll scroll through them, and the movies that I haven't seen before, I've just added them to my watch list so that I know there's like these stickers. 4. Well, yes, but like there's these 3 or 4 Buster Keaton movies that I need to get around to watching eventually.
Oh yeah,
right? Or yes,
and it's
things
not
like
anything
that.
you'd think of if you didn't have it, written down somewhere, basically.
Yes, or like, hey, I like the later John Wayne westerns, but of the massive amount of early John Wayne stuff that he did, which one should I actually see? Like to get a film history kind of thing or whatever. Anyway, check me out. Letterboxd link below. But people did not seem to love this movie, and I don't really know what they're missing. I mean, like, listen, this is not the greatest tale ever told. I'm gonna have some nits to pick, especially late.
Of
but
course.
It's got a great cast. It looks beautiful.
The action, I mean, it rolls right along too. Like, it's very tense. There's some really good scares in it. It ain't shit at the box office too. Like, this was a huge flop, which is really kind of a bummer to me because it feels very much like they were trying to set it up for a sequel. And I would have gone and watched that movie.
Okay, let's start with that, actually. Because it's the one nit that I have to pick, really. The end of this movie is clearly a setup for a second film.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the funniest thing to me, Ashley, is there was a movie several years ago called, I think it's called Dracula Untold. It's the one that came out right before the Tom Cruise Mummy movie. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, around that time, yeah. Who's in it? Do you remember off the top of your head?
No, I'm going to have to look it up real quick. The bad guy in the movie was Charles Dance.
Oh, I love him. God, I love Charles Dance.
Yeah, it's called Dracula Untold. It was 2014. Who was the star? It's Luke Evans.
Okay.
Luke Evans is a good actor, but he's one of those guys that looks like 5 other guys, and I very much forget who he is.
Yeah, yes. 100%.
But like Dominic Cooper's in it, Art Parkinson, and Charles Dance is so Charles Dance plays Dracula, honestly, but not Vlad Dracula. He plays this ancient vampire that is in the mountain. Luke Evans plays Vlad Dracula. He's presented as a good guy, like he's defending his country against the Turks or whatever, and he goes to the vampire for power, basically, and he makes a deal with the devil to become Dracula. At the end of that movie, though, there's one of my favorite podcasts in the world is this show called The Weekly Planet podcast. Just 2 Australians who are just good friends, and they talk about pop culture, comic book movies, and things like that. But when they reviewed this movie, they made so much fun of the ending of the movie because you go through the whole story of Dracula, and then the very end jumps forward in time to the modern day, and you have Luke Evans' character like walking in the daylight for no good reason at that point, and it's not explained at all. And then he's like leaving a cafe to follow a woman that looks like the main woman in the movie.
Yeah.
And we cut to Charles Dance, unvampiried and just looking good like Charles Dance, sitting in the cafe, and he like puts a hat on and he goes, "The game is on." And he gets up and follows Luke Evans. So they made a whole award every year in their annual episode, like their finale of the year episode, where they talk about the Game Is On award, where it's like the worst movie that obviously wanted to set up a sequel that will never
be made. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. That's brilliant, because that is the fact of this, and it is a very like chew the scenery kind of setup too. It actually is almost exactly what you just described.
That's what I'm
to
saying.
A fucking T.
That's what killed me, because I've only seen Dracula Untold once, like right when it first came out, and it was before I heard those guys talk about it. I just got a giggle remembering. I'm like, oh yeah, it does do that, doesn't it? This does the same. It's the same studio, Ashley, and it's basically another Dracula story. And I'm like, you just ran that back, huh? Like, let's do that again.
That is fucking hilarious. I love it.
At least they didn't take the end. At least they didn't take the end like into the future. You know, they could have.
Yes, that's true. They could have.
They all got frozen in ice.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you, please. No, thank you. That would have been a real bummer after the good work they did on that ship.
So, okay, so let's get into this thing here. I love a Universal monster movie. I'm not a movie studio stan.
Brat is a fucking Universal monster Looney Tune, and I don't know why, but my dad wasn't into them. I can guarantee you that's why it wasn't on at my house.
So I don't know about Brat, but mine is easy to explain. I had access to this like educational library at my mom was a teacher in the public school system, and she had access to this. I don't know. I think they called it the resource room or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
It was basically like a video store for the schools. They could check things out. We could go and check things out. And there were like a lot of the old Disney cartoons were there and stuff. But one of the things that was there was they had a huge selection of Universal monster movies. I don't know why, but I guess they were just old enough that they were considered, important or relevant or whatever.
Easy to get your hands on too. Like it's not, they're not super expensive probably to get those,
But like I watched Dracula actually was one that I didn't watch very much as a kid. I don't know if they didn't have a copy in the library or what. I didn't remember seeing that until recently. But the Wolfman in particular was like, I watched that on repeat. I loved Frankenstein, A Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And like
Brat loves the creature from the Black Lagoon is his. Like he fucking loves that sad swamp monster.
It's not just the sad swamp monster, but the love story, the unrequited love story that's there is insane, man. And the main starlet, who I can't think of her name right now, I showed that to my kids like last year, I think, and everybody really liked that movie. But first of all, it's like 15 years after most of the early ones that everybody watches on repeat, so it's a much more modern film. And second of all, the starlet in that movie comes off of the screen in a way that is just like, wow, we don't make movie stars like we used to, actually. Like none of these celebrities, they're not like that woman is electrifying, and the way that they present her on film adds to that too.
Right,
but
absolutely.
Anyway, you fall in love with her just like the monster does in that movie. So when this theme song hits, or not the theme song, but like the pre-roll hits, and you see that Universal logo, I am jacked up, man, especially if I know it's about monsters. I am so excited for it.
I love it.
I like too that this movie opens, and this is not the case exactly in the book, because as you said, everything in the book is letters or diaries and journals. And so when you get to this chapter that's about the boat, you just read it in sequence. Here we see the ending result first, and then we go to how all of this terrible stuff happened. I love it when a story starts like that. We mentioned this in the Salem's Lot episode, but the original miniseries and the novel both do that. You see the aftermath of the Salem's Lot story, and you're like, wow, what happened to put these two on this journey?
On this particular path. Absolutely. Yeah. This is, and I love the, number one, I love a fucking empty ship that shouldn't be story. Like you start me off with something like that, like a big ship mystery. I find that stuff fascinating. So like a ghost ship, that just runs aground and nobody's on it. Nobody's on that ship that's alive.
I also really like a men on a mission trope, where you got like a motley crew, and ostensibly they've all got the same goal, but actually they've all got their individual goals.
It's like Alien on the sea, that's what we're dealing with here.
Okay, One of the Letterboxd reviews that I mentioned earlier that was sort of, I think this was like a 2 or a 3 star. They said, I mean, almost exactly that. It's just alien on a wooden boat. But like they said it pejoratively, and I'm like, what? Fuck yeah, sign me up for 2 or 3 of those, actually.
By the way, also, if you mention the name of my movie in the same breath as Alien in a like comparative way, I would be like, high fives, motherfuckers, we did it! You know, like, are you kidding me?
So this one very specifically does a few things that are like exactly like Alien.
Yes, there are a couple for sure.
Okay, this is my note. I said there's nothing better than planning how you're going to spend money that's coming, is there? Oh. There's a scene when they're all around the table and they're talking about how they're going to spend the bonus because they're moving so fast. But it's just like, really, it's the opening scene of Alien after they all come out of stasis and they're just sitting around eating and everybody's talking bullshit, and it's like, these are just truckers. These are just people that are hauling freight, and this is what they do. This is just a boat full of roughnecks, genuinely.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're just doing a fucking job. Like, that's the other thing, is like, they're just literally just doing a job. And this is a really small crew too. I thought that was like, it feels like a pretty big ship. But it's a pretty small crew that they have.
Well, they say they're down to start with, and they hire a few people for this mission.
People. Yeah.
But I think even there, I think you're right. It's like, this is sort of it's running as a skeleton crew, I think, specifically because the captain's winding down, right?
Right. Love that actor, Liam Cunningham. I love him. He was so wonderful in Game of Thrones.
Yes. He's Davis Seaworth, the Onion Knight is what they call him in the Game of Thrones.
Oh God, I loved that character so much.
He's just amazing in that. But he absolutely is one of these guys, I'm sure, that's been doing, good British television and theater for the last 40 years, and we just didn't know him that well in America.
Yeah, he got teed up for us in Game of Thrones. You get on an HBO show and everybody knows you.
Okay, so the other one, though, that I want to call out, the whole cast is honestly quite good, but the two in particular are Liam Cunningham as the captain and David Dastmalchian, he's in everything, this guy.
He is right now. He is a hot commodity. This is the first thing I remember seeing him in.
Okay, I think the first thing that he really stood out to me in was the Ant-Man movies. He plays the Russian goofy. So he's playing against type here. He's almost always sort of silly or maybe a little creepy. Well, he's in Ant-Man, and he's also in the Suicide Squad, the second Suicide Squad movie that James Gunn did. He plays, I can't remember the name of the character, but he's the one that's got the spots on his costume that he throws out like little
Polka Dot Man.
Yes, Polka Dot Man, exactly. Anyway, he's generally sort of I mean, he's a funny man, he's a comedian, a comedic actor.
He's definitely been breaking out of that lately.
Dude, he's a heavy here. Like, he's like the muscle on the ship. And he's also the second-hand man. But I loved him in this. I thought he was fantastic.
He's fantastic in this. And have you seen Late Night with the Devil?
No. Oh, he is. Ooh. I forgot he's the lead in that. He's the host, right?
That movie's effing crazy, Joel.
Well, okay, that's why I hadn't watched it, Ashley. I'm sort of a pansy, so it's like how scary is it? It feels like pretty scary.
It's more creepy and like unsettling.
Okay, I can handle a little unsettling, honestly.
I think I would say
a little existential horror is a good thing, I feel like.
There's some mind fuckery that happens. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. He's fantastic, and I love him in this. It's a great strong character, got a great arc. You find out that he's going to be the captain at the end of this mission. Like when they dock, the captain's retiring, and he was going to recommend this guy take over this ship.
Which is interesting because, like, in some ways, he's the one that's got the most to lose of the whole. Like, most of the crew are sort of solo, and like whatever happens to me nobody will notice. Yeah. And then you got the captain and Toby, who obviously the captain is working on Toby's retirement and life, or his retirement and Toby's life. Yeah. And but like. Wolchak is on the edge of what he's always dreamed of, honestly. Yeah. And maybe his turn becomes that this boat is full again. We're fully crewed and we're doing big things and interesting things and not just hauling dirt from Romania to to London.
Let me take your vampire boxes for you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, there was one other cat. Oh, Corey Hawkins is the other one that I wanted to call out specifically here at the top. So Corey Hawkins plays Clemens, who's sort of
Loved
our doctor
him.
on board. He's really, really good. I remember him best from Kong Skull Island. He plays John Goodman's sort of assistant in Kong Skull Island. If you've seen that, which if you're a Kong fan, that's a really good one. He's also really good in The Tragedy of Macbeth with Denzel Washington as Macbeth. That's excellent on Apple TV if you haven't seen that.
He was in that in 24 Legacy too.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah,
I've never gotten around to watching that yet.
I didn't finish it.
Okay, Woody Norman is the kid on the boat. He plays Toby, and he's totally game too. Like we've talked before, like child acting is a difficult row to hoe, and like I think he does everything great here. He's got an interesting little story of his own too.
Absolutely, he's super cute. I was like, this is like a little baby Armand.
Well,
with his curly sweet hair.
He does have those bouncy curls. I thought though about it's Newt in Aliens, right? Like you've got having the kid there. First of all, this is a resourceful kid, and he's an asset in his own right. He's not a liability.
He's in charge of the animals. You know, like has a job on the boat.
But it does make the whole thing more scary knowing that kid's around and is probably going to get, a terrible end.
God, there's even a dog in this. Like there's a cat in Alien.
Yeah, they really did run it, but like once I started breaking it down, but I don't hate that at all. I don't think that's a pejorative at all.
I think what I said stands. High fives, boop, boop, boop.
Yeah. Ashley, we talk about truths that we've learned in fiction. For instance, if you drag a big box onto a ship or a train, I'm going to assume there's a vampire in that box.
100%.
Here's one. If an old Romani man says that he's really got to go,
you should go too.
Actually.
Yeah. Come to find out, exit stage right. I am right behind you, buddy. Yeah. He's like, no, this isn't good. We're leaving. We have to leave before sundown.
They're like, hey, you got to help us load this stuff. And he hands that man a bag of gold and he goes, best of luck, buddy.
This is for you, sir. Which is probably their payment for hauling the damn things there to start with. They're just like, I want this done. We want this dude out of our town, away from our village, quick stealing our daughters and putting them in boxes to snack on a ship.
So, okay. When you realize later that those men, some of them, allowed Anna to be part of the sacrifice, it does make you think, oh yeah, that they probably did and rid ourselves of the blood money too.
Just get this done. We want it over.
But I mean, she's got a great line later. Clemens asks why London, and she goes, there's no one left in my country to eat. He drained this land dry, and now he's got to search for fertile fields. I do say this, I think one of the reasons that Universal was not successful with launching this and making a sequel out of it is that this isn't where you start. I think the castle story in Dracula is really interesting, and one of the reasons is because it makes Dracula an actual character. I think that's the biggest fault in this movie is that Dracula is just he's just the alien. He's just a xenomorph.
Monster. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Predator actually is what they make him most like, because they even give him the voice mimicking thing. He repeats several lines back, which is exactly what the Predator does. He's using a recorder, and transmogrifying it or whatever. But Dracula here, I mean, we get the idea. Anna says specifically that he can go about in the form of a man. Mm-hmm. But in the end, he's not. He still looks like Nosferatu face.
Put some glamour on your face, brother. You don't blend in.
Yeah. So
take a note.
The big knock that I have against this, honestly, is that this all becomes the Dracula miniseries thing that they did on Netflix and the BBC, where they do the first episode is like a 90-minute movie of the castle stuff, basically. The second episode is a 90-minute movie of this. And then the third episode is they come to the modern day, Ashley. It's not good. Most people don't like it. I didn't care for it either. Their version of the Demeter is great. And one of the reasons it's so great is because, first of all, we care about Dracula a little bit already from the first episode. But secondly, he's on the boat and is one of the, they make it basically almost like a it's like a murder on the Death on the Nile or whatever.
Okay,
Like it's like a
yeah.
Poirot novel where the captain and the boat members are trying to piece it together about like what's happening here and who might be responsible, and he's just this charming denizen on the boat. Whereas here they know he's in one of those boxes. Like,
Yeah.
it almost makes me wonder, like, why haven't they cracked him open earlier?
Right? Why didn't you dig around those for like number one? That girl fell out of one. Come on. I mean, I know they didn't know
would've
that for
opened all
sure,
of them.
but for sure, how many girls are in these boxes, y'all?
Yeah.
Are we trafficking women across the country, across the globe?
Yeah, there are several times to me where I'm like, this is where I would have taken the lifeboats. But
Right. I mean,
yeah.
it is a really weak. It is. You're totally right. It would be a very weak starter for a Dracula thing for you to give a shit about Dracula. Like, they want us to care about the Doctor is who they want us to care about by the time this is all said and done. That's who we're supposed to be on his team, and we're not supposed to really be that interested or care about Dracula aside from him just being an adversary, which is weak sauce. Like it's more interesting when there's more depth there, for sure. But I did love this just for being a scary, fucking horrifying boat ride to hell.
If you basically pretend that the last 10 minutes didn't happen, then you're all good.
Yeah, absolutely. It does leave a very awkward taste in your mouth.
Okay, here's another cast member I want to call out because I did not know this name and I haven't seen him in anything else. John Briones, I believe is the name. He plays Joseph the cook. He is so fucking good in this. He's like a devout Catholic. He's quoting, St. Christopher or whatever.
I mean,
not St. Christopher. St. Nicholas?
St. Nicholas, yeah. He's like your the omen, the guy that's like an omen, like in Cabin in the Woods, it's the guy at the gas station. It's like the harbinger. Yes, he's like a harbinger.
You want to go this way?
He's the harbinger of doom. He's like, oh no, you're all sinners and we're fucked.
Okay, so we mentioned earlier, if you show me a big crate, I'm going to guess there's a vampire in it. I was so surprised when they broke it open and it wasn't a vampire in it. It was just a girl. When we get that's our first real good jump scare of the movie is her coming up out of the dirt. It was just absolutely not what I was expecting. It honestly did scare the shit out of me a little bit at the moment. I was like, what is this?
This has really good, really well done jump scares too. Like, and I mean, I know that's not everybody's jam, especially people that aren't as into horror, but man, I just love, give me a good little, a well orchestrated jump scare, and I love it.
So I think they do a pretty good job of teasing the monster out. Yeah. We don't see him fully until almost the end of the movie.
Right.
And
like, they don't know he has wings for the longest. They're like, fuck me.
Dude, I remember when I watched this one twice, honestly, of like basically back to back, just because I was really enjoying it the first time, and then I was picking it apart to write things the second time. Mm-hmm. But that moment when they finally realize he's got wings, and I think we get a glimpse of what looks like wings one scene earlier or two scenes earlier.
I think so. Yeah. I feel like we definitely have more of an idea of what this monster is than our poor crew does.
But it did remind me a little bit of the moment in the last Star Wars movie, Rise of Skywalker, where the stormtroopers got a jetpack and they go, "They fly now! They fly now!"
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah.
What did you think of the look of Dracula?
Of the monster?
In this? Yeah.
We prefer our handsome, sexy vampires, but yes. I mean, I like the design of him. I think he's really creepy and gross. Like, he's not like really, it's very animalistic. He feels very, and a little like almost they're definitely leaning into the whole bat thing for sure. Cause there's almost like a wolfish kind of quality to, I like the look of him. I love those creepy ass wings. They get a lot of mileage out of those wings.
So it's interesting to me. You and I specifically have talked a lot about two other vampires this past fall that remind me a lot of this design. And I feel like this design was influenced by at least one of them. The New Salem's Lot adaptation does a pretty good job with Barlow, which is a Nosferatu style vampire.
Yep.
but to me, I like this design better than Barlow's. And
I do too. I didn't really think about comparing those. In my mind, I definitely compared it to Midnight Mass.
that was the other one I was going to mention.
Yeah.
So the Midnight Mass vampire, first of all, this vampire is all fangs. It's like
like a face full of teeth.
Yeah, it's almost like the Sarlacc pit or something.
Yeah.
Like it's almost not even a mouth. It's just like a maw of teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Midnight Mass vampire is like very clearly a human mouth, just with large fanged teeth.
Fangity fangs.
Same thing with the hands. The Midnight Mass vampire has claws, but they're really just sharp human fingers.
I mean, everything's a little elongated and a little off, but it's not, it's very human-like.
Yes. Yeah. And this creature is like, it's something else, man. We see those hands several times in the dirt when he's sleeping, and it's like, what is going on with those nails?
His legs are really creepy too. His legs seem like they're jointed in the wrong direction, like those aliens from Arrival.
Well, it's the bat thing too, though, that you were mentioned. I think specifically, it's like this creature is not really meant to walk like we walk, which is really interesting when you think about the idea of him going about in the shape of a man.
In London.
I do wonder, like, is it actual shape-shifting there? Or is he just able to, like, put on a big coat and pretend for a while? And is it all... I don't know. Yeah. I would love for the filmmaker
we didn't get the sequel, Joel. We probably would have found out that in the sequel.
Yeah, right? I would love to hear the filmmaker explain, Dracula's powers here. One of the big differences from this and the novel and the other adaptations that you've seen of Dracula, this vampire has no problem with holy elements. Like, he straight up eats that St. Christopher.
He cares not for your crucifixes. He's not worried about your rosary. You can keep that.
It does make me wonder, a lot of the vampires, a lot of the older myths and stuff couldn't cross water or couldn't touch water and things like that. I wonder if that's an issue he flies through the rain and that's not a problem. I don't think this one is a can't get wet. He just couldn't
I think it's
fly
length of
all
voyage.
the way to London. Yeah.
You can't fly that fast, You can't stay ahead of the sunrise, so.
You've said before, Ashley, that you have to Google whether the dog makes it before you can see a movie. This dog does not make it, I'm afraid.
This dog does not make it, nor do any of the animals on board, sadly.
Okay, I wondered, though, why wouldn't the vampire string out? So why eat all of the animals in one night?
I don't know if he just got excited or what. Like, if the animals aren't as nourishing as the people.
I mean, maybe that's it.
Like, we get to the point where when everyone realizes what's happening and they're like, oh, he's been rationing us. Which is horrifying.
A cool thought, too.
But he doesn't do that with the animals. It's like, And what a way to give yourself away, too. Like, eat a couple of them discreetly, sir. He can't even, he's like, leaves gaping holes and everything. It can't just have a nibble.
But see, I think I think that's again one of the things that you lose when you don't allow for the duality of the vampiric character. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Great, make them look like that for real, but give us something that is charismatic and appealing,
right?
Something that is thoughtful and strategic. This vampire doesn't seem to show any strategy.
No, and maybe part of that is because he doesn't feel like he has to here. He's like, this is a trip of utility, and none of these people are going to be left by the end of it, and I'm just trying to get across the ocean. This is, you're not going to see my best self. You're going to see me at my work mode.
That's absolutely fair.
Yeah. It's cubicle Dracula. He's been working 8 to 5 too long.
Man, I mentioned Joseph the cook earlier. He's got a great moment with Clemens where he just mentions, he's like, the rats are all gone. And Clemens is like,
man.
What? And he goes, the rats are all gone. And he goes, well, they probably, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you could burn the ship to the keel, Mr. Clemens. Rats would just nest in the ashes.
Well, they're everywhere. They're crawling on people while they're sleeping. Like, that doesn't happen if you've got a couple of rats. That's not happening. That happens when you have all the rats.
Well, and then they got none of the rats.
None of the rats, which is a very bad sign. If you had
Again,
rats and then all of a sudden they are gone, that is a signal that something's amiss, friends.
so to me, when the not quite dead girl rolled out of the box full of dirt, that would have been moment one to jump on them lifeboats. Moment two would have been when all the animals wound up killed and drained of blood one morning.
Bye.
Round three, though, would have been when the cook informed me that there was not a rat on the ship anymore. I'd be like, now see,
that's a very
there's a
valid
saying
point, sir. This is
about them rats abandoning ship. I think we're supposed to be with them.
We gotta go. Time to go. Yeah.
I don't like slashers as a rule. Like that style of horror movie is not. I like thinking horror movies. I used that phrase with a friend recently, and he was like, "That's such." I was like, I don't think I came up with it. Like, surely not. But yeah, I like horror movies we can talk about for a long time. Probably gonna make me cry when I think about the trauma they induced in me or whatever, you know. But I do enjoy this version of the slow picking them off. Like, it's very well done here, I think. And again, it is reminiscent of Predator in particular. They do a good job there of like each one kind of has their, most of them aren't a hero moment, so to speak, but they have like
a strong moment. Exit.
Yes.
Strong
and then they're gone. Yeah. We get several of those here, and they do a great job. And that's when it occurred to me, oh man, Dracula is literally doing the Predator thing where he's mimicking he doesn't mimic the voice like they do in Predator. Like Predator uses it as a trap. Dracula's fucking with them. They're like, you know, one of them says something like, God help me. He's like, God help me.
It was so bad. There's like fog everywhere. It's like the foggiest place you've ever seen in your life. And then you got this fucking vampire whispering shit at you. No, thank you. Hard pass. I'll be in the galley.
Man, okay. I don't know why I didn't expect it. Toby's death hit me very, very hard when I watched this the first time.
I feel like they killed him kind of early. I felt the same way when I watched it the first time. I was like, we're not even down to like the last of it. This is not a like the Mist situation. This is some early fuckery. And also, can I say, Brett and I talked about this too. Have you ever seen a person getting set on fire because a vampire got caught on fire? I've never seen that move before, and I love it.
I don't think I had either. Now that you mention it, no, like the captain gets burnt a little bit because they have to hit him with fire. That's interesting. No, I don't think I've actually seen that before. I did not anticipate. Again, they surprised me because Toby's death was so early. But the other thing that didn't occur to me because of that, I was like on tilt. I didn't think about what that might mean. You know, Toby becomes a bargaining chip for Dracula, basically. Like he is literally trying to talk the captain into turning this all over. Yeah. Because I can give you Toby back. He can't, by the way. Like we know that's not how this shit works. Toby's dead for dead, but like the captain doesn't know that, you know? And it's
he wants to really have cool hope moment about his fucking it's his grandson, I think it's his grandson.
Yeah, it's his which again, like that's a good example of how this movie doesn't do too much. We just get the barest mention, and maybe this literally just comes down to Liam Cunningham, but we get the barest mention that his daughter's dead. This is his daughter's son. First of all, his daughter. He never mentions any other children. Probably an only child. My guess is whether it realistically is to blame in any way. He feels like if he would have been with his daughter, she wouldn't have died. Whatever happened to her, it wouldn't have happened if I had been there, right?
Right. He has got obviously some sort of guilt associated, and obviously is the person being left to raise this child. You know, like he's the one. Like the dad's not around. He's raising this child. Otherwise, why would a kid be on a fucking ship?
Yes, exactly. But it's not. So it's not just the normal like the legacies of the family that a grandparent might see in a grandchild. This is like, I've got a burden to get this kid to a happy life and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, when that turns and we realize that the captain might go bad because of it, I was genuinely thinking that it was going to happen because of the stakes and the way that this all played out. So anyway, I think the story with Toby is probably the strongest piece of the narrative itself.
Oh, and
the fact that they were able to turn the captain like that. But then not really.
And they set it up. Everyone on the ship loved him. Like he was everyone. Like all of these tough ass guys that work on this ship absolutely adored this little boy that was running around and working with them. And so his death affects everyone. Everyone has a strong reaction to that happening. And it is. I love that it happened so early in the movie and it wasn't towards the end. It's because it is very shocking and jarring. And then you see this great, the funeral scene where we're going to drop him in the water and he can see him moving because he's a fucking vampire. And then the sun hits him because he opens it up. Sun hits him, catches on fire, catches Grandpa on fire. Holy shit. That scene's wild. That is the craziest fucking funeral.
It is insane. So Mr. Olgarin, another great crew member, he had already burned up before Toby. So we knew that was coming. But okay, David Brown in our Facebook group mentioned how much this vampire reminded him of Midnight Mass. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of moments in particular, it's not Olgarin. I think it's later when he gets David Dasmalchian's character. But one of them, at some point, he's crawling up the body and he turns the head real hard to get to the neck, and he breaks the neck, which is the exact move that the character does to a certain character in Midnight Mass. Anyway, I was like, that shot's exactly like so David's not wrong in that. I think some of this was very much inspired by, but specifically the way they burn up, I thought was very similar.
Yeah, it is. It looks great. Special effects in this, I think, are fantastic and good and creepy. But yeah, the immolations are quite spectacular.
Man, right before Toby gets killed, though, it's a great moment. And again, good acting on the kid's part. He says, "Mr. Olgarin, will you please go away?" I was like, ooh.
That was
it's
so
scary
awful.
When a kid's scared.
Also, there was a lot of skull smashing in this. I felt like a lot of heads bashing into things.
Well, a wasteful ass vampire is what just kept coming to me. I'm like, that's so much blood you wasting smashing that dude's head onto the.
Yeah, why don't you clean up after yourself? These are not Anne's vampires.
No. All right. The line from Liam Cunningham is great. He says, "He comes to me. He whispers behind my own eyes. He can bring Toby back." And like I said, he can't. And it doesn't work in the end, too, which I love. Like, Anna comes and tells him, she's like, sometimes I can remember who I was before him.
Yeah.
But mostly, I just dream of myself in that box. And that's enough. Liam's like, I'm not going to, I won't damn Toby for all eternity, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, we'll stay the course, which there's another great line from him right at the end. Liam says, "Mr. Clemens, let them know, will you? Let them know that I was true to my trust."
Yes. Well, and the love that these two guys have for the ship is really interesting too. And it's very it's very, very true to ship lore and things like that. Bad luck to have a woman on the board. That's a real fucking thing to this day on fishing vessels, at least I know, and it's they love that they have for the Demeter is so lovely. He doesn't want to take he doesn't want to sink it. He doesn't want to have to sink it, Wolchek, he doesn't want to have to oh my God, are you kidding me? I have to do this to her. It's just as, I mean, and he does what he has to do. Everybody does what they have to do, but it is, I really liked that. I really felt that was true to, to captains and to sailors and to ships.
Man, when Wolchek hacks at the boat, he literally apologizes. He says, "Forgive me," before he does it.
And he touches the wall. He touches it so gently.
He's literally asking the boat for forgiveness. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. But again, I think that line about they were true to their trust. It's not just the ship, because the ship isn't the ship is not their home. Their home was the crew. And as somebody else has that line, right? It's the people on the boat that matter. And that's what they're trying to do this for. And then more than that, society at large.
Right,
at the end, they're literally
my home.
It's the line from Aliens 2 is take off and nuke it from orbit, right? Like, yeah, man, we're gonna have to sink this fucking ship, and not let it land.
No, indeed, because I mean, just the havoc that he wreaked on this crew. They're like, what can he possibly do? Unleashed on the people of London.
Well, not just the havoc on the ship, but they've got Anna's word for it that he literally destroyed a whole country.
Absolutely. Decimated her entire people.
So Anna and Clemens make it off the boat, but Anna doesn't make it to shore. And again, this surprised me, right? Like, he's been doing the transfusions. I'm basing this off of what happens with Lucy and Mina. And Lucy goes too far, but they catch Mina in time and save her by destroying Dracula. And I'm like,
right.
I honestly didn't think about the fact that he's got to make it off this boat because he has his adventures in London, which we already know about, so I should have seen this coming, but were you surprised that Anna ends up turning?
The first time I watched it, I was really bummed because I wanted a second chance for her. She seemed to have a really rough start in life, and she deserves some nice things, bless her heart. So I was really bummed. But the second I looked at her, I was like, oh, she got the milky eyes.
Yeah, when I didn't notice the eyes the first time either.
I'm always gonna notice a fucking milky eye. I don't know what it is. You got a fucking milky eye? It's the telltale heart. We were talking about it on the Poe podcast. I mean, on Flanagan, because I was like, we're getting next episode. We're covering his telltale heart. My mom had a cataract recently, and I was like, get that shit removed. I will not abide a milky eye. This is horrifying.
We will get you some dark sunglasses.
All I'm
lady.
gonna think about.
Yes, no, I'm sort of with you there. She's got a great last line that she says, my whole life they chose for me. I choose this, no one else.
Yeah.
And
she has a lovely exit. She's like sits up on some of the debris and
Ashley, I believe you and I have both already talked about it on the show before. We are in favor of euthanasia being legalized. So yeah, man, go out on your own terms, especially in a situation like this. Like, she's doing it for the right reasons.
Well, she knows the monster. She knows the monster she would become. Like, she knows.
And I'm on his side.
She was this
the
juice
second
box,
that I go too far. Yeah.
She was this fucking juice box for the trip across the ocean.
We've already run down the end of this a little bit, the prologue. I do not care for it. However, I will say there's a really good moment that I do like. When Dracula, he lets him see him, and then he leaves the bar, but he runs by him and drags his hand across.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I was like, okay, all right.
See, and that gave you a taste of what you might get next. That is, and that's why I was like, oh, bummer.
But that's like it's like the one moment for Dracula that gives him any character, right? Like a creature who would tease like that and toy and bait him is someone who's thinking and strategizing and has a plan for things or whatever. Yeah. Or
somebody
at least
knows that he's coming after him, like, I know this guy. If this guy lives, this guy's going to be coming after me. Yeah. Sitting in bars, drawing pictures of dead girls.
I cannot believe how much Universal mirrored what they did at the end of Dracula Untold with that the game is on thing. Like,
I've not seen that. That's just fucking
bizarre.
Crazy. It is bizarre. Because you're probably going to have crossover of people that watch these two fucking movies.
Well, they weren't even that far. I mean, 2014 is not ancient history.
No, this was what, 2022? When did this come out?
I think 23.
Yeah, 2023.
Pretty solid movie, though, I would tell you, especially if you like Dracula, if you like more actiony horror movies, if you like those movies we mentioned, like Predator and Alien, if you like a man on a mission type movie, then this is your bag, baby.
It's got a very actiony vibe to it. It's very, very fun in that vein, and they set up the characters just like they do in those movies. So you get to know the crew a little bit, and you have feelings about that, and then all of a sudden, bye.
Yeah. I honestly, this was a good one. Thank you everybody who suggested it and got us to watch it. I digged it quite a lot. I digged it. I dug it.
Digged it right up the alley.
I digged it right up.
Digged it right into boxes that you put on a ship.
Let me tell you about a little movie that I have been digging a lot longer than that. Next episode, Ashley, we're going to be talking about From Dusk Till Dawn. And I've been digging this movie since I read about it in Fangoria in like 94, 95 when they first started working on it.
Y'all, this movie's so fucking crazy. You
So
forget.
weird.
I forget how crazy it is until I watch it again, and then I'm just always like, I forgot so much of this. This is amazing. I don't know how you forget, but you do, and then you go back to it and you're like, oh, look at that gun.
Man, in every corner of that film, there's something to go, what the fuck were they?
What the fuck was
what
that?
the fuck?
What the fuck was that?
So look
What
forward to
body
that,
part is that?
folks.
What's that guitar made out of?
On our sister podcast, Flan Again, Ashley and her lovely husband Brat are discussing Fall of the House of Usher, as she mentioned. Some great episodes on that right now, so tune in for that. And here, after we finish these 2 movie nights, we'll be coming back to wrap up the year with some more Blood and Gold. We're going to finish our book club episodes.
Talk shit about Marius.
Yeah, talk some more shit about Marius. We're going to talk about Marius and Bianca. I will just say a match made in heaven, honestly, in my opinion. And then we'll talk about Marius and Akasha.
If only he ever loved Bianca for what she was and not what he wished she was, which was Pandora.
She was just incredibly useful.
All the time, every time.
You said something so apt in a previous episode, and I think maybe it was even about Bianca. You were talking about, he doesn't really love. They don't want her all the time. But he wants her available. He wants her available.
Yep. It's the narcissist way.
So let's see how available she is.
I'm still going to make sure that you know that I'm the one for you.
While I plot for your replacement multiple different times throughout history, I still need you available. So you just wait on me.
I'm glad I only fell for that for like 3 years instead of 300.
You were so young. It was so long ago.
It's true. 3 years instead of 300 is much better.
Yes. All right. So stay tuned for all of that here on the flagship, and all of it can be found at articulatecoven.com and on YouTube for those of you who prefer video, and on our Patreon, articulatecoven.com/join. Thank you to everybody who is supporting us there.
Big love.
That is our episode on the Last Voyage of the Demeter. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And until we talk to you next time, we've been your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven.
Thanks for listening to The Articulate Coven. If you enjoyed the show, check out our groups on Facebook and Discord. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Or find us at articulatecoven.com and wherever you listen to podcasts.